All right, hey everybody, Anthony here. I want to share just a few tips for you as we're going about fasting as a church, and hopefully also encourage you as you're going about this fasting. Some of you maybe you've done this many times, or maybe this is your first time. I plan to share some of my mistakes and things I learned that make fasting really effective in our lives. This is going to be super informal. I have some notes here, some scripture and stuff, and so let's just talk as if you're actually here in my office and we're here together. First, I think the thing is to remind us what fasting is, biblical fasting. One thing is fasting is always coupled with prayer. You don't just fast and not pray. As Pastor Scott said, if you do that, fasting is just a really bad diet. But what fasting does is that we as humans are both bodies and we're spirits. And so what fasting does is that it weakens our physical body by denying ourselves a key thing like food. Fasting weakens our physical body by denying ourselves a key thing like food. But it gives us superpowers in the spiritual realm. So again, we are both body and spirit. In 2 Corinthians 12, verse 9, the Apostle Paul is talking about a thorn that's in his flesh. And he says when he's suffering from this, he says Jesus speaks to him, and Jesus says to him, "My grace is sufficient for you. My power is made perfect in weakness." And then Paul goes on to say, "Therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weakness, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why for Christ's sake I delight in weaknesses, in insults and hardships and persecutions and difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong." So fasting weakens our physical body, and then our spirit becomes strong. When we are weak, then we are strong people. Right now I'm playing a video game. It's Spider-Man on PlayStation. And in the video game, there's this feature in the game that while you're Spider-Man, you're fighting all these bad guys. As you're taking hits, your health bar shrinks and goes down. But what happens, the weaker you get, you gain this ability called focus. And what focus does, it allows you to use special abilities that are otherwise unavailable to you in the game. So you get an increase in gadgets, an increase in speed and power and all these things. And that's only when your health bar shrinks, then you gain focus. That's in the video game. But fasting is similar to that. Our bodies get weaker because we're not eating as we normally would, but we gain a superpower in the spirit realm where we can hear God's voice more clearly. Maybe we can pray more earnestly. And it's a mystery. There's no like verse in here I can read you that says, here's exactly what happens when you fast. But it's a mystery that actually works. And so fasting, again, weakens our physical body, but gives us superpowers in the spiritual realm. A tip that I would also offer, some people fast from social media or electronics. I would actually say if you're fasting from food, to also include social media and electronics, if not totally removing them, but also limiting them from your time. I had this moment where I was fasting for a day, and I realized by the end of the fast at night that I wasn't as hungry. I was like, oh, I'm not even that hungry. I can go longer if I wanted to. But what I learned was I looked at my phone, and my screen time for the day had increased by about 2.5 hours. So I had, instead of praying, I had actually spent more time distracting myself from being hungry by being on social media, being on YouTube, and watching videos more often. And I realized that was actually a terrible fast, and all I had did was just not eat for the day. And I thought I was doing something spiritual because I can do this. And I really was not. I was distracting myself. But because remember, we want to fast and increase our time in prayer. And then there's two people out there that I hope to encourage in this as well. Some of you who are fasting during this time, you might be placing undue burdens on yourself. And then there's some of you that haven't even attempted this at all. And so I want to speak to both of you guys who are out there. If you're someone who you're going through this and you're asking the question, am I doing this right? Am I praying enough? Am I fasting enough? Or I have to go every day and really not eat all day and all this stuff. And maybe you're actually, you're feeling more stress than feeling more spiritually alive. You're probably someone who needs to take a break from the prayer and fasting and really reevaluate, how does God want you to do this? The call that we're doing now is not to perform or do legalism. We are just trying to hear and commune with God better. So if you're someone and you're feeling stress in your body, stress in your life because you're engaging in this prayer and fasting time, and maybe you're trying to do it a specific way, I want to encourage you to loosen up a little bit. Jesus says that he says that, come to me all you who are weary, For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. That means there is a burden, but it's easy and light. And so if you're not feeling a light burden or an easy yoke, you probably have someone else's yoke on you. You need to take it off. Okay. I've been talking with people. I know Pastor Scott has as well, where we've encouraged people to say, "Hey, lighten up a little bit. Uh, don't hurt You're not supposed to hurt yourself in fasting. You're supposed to weaken yourself." And then if you're someone who's not trying at all, maybe because you're like, I can't possibly do it, or I just don't really feel like trying, want to encourage you to try it. Man, this time and times past, like I've seen, heard God speak and heard His voice so clearly, just from a few days of praying and fasting. And I have not fasted every day in these 25 days. I've done some days and then other days in the week where I do eat. Um, but man, you just hear God's voice and you remember that He's real and He's alive and He's active in our lives today. So I want to encourage you that even if you get one day in the whole 25 days where you can deny yourself food, if you have that ability and medically you can do it and all that, I want to encourage you to try it, and give yourself to prayer so that you can hear God's voice in your own life. That's just a few things I wanted to share with you, a few tips and things, try to avoid social media altogether. Remembering that when we are weak, then we are strong because it builds our focus, just like if you're Spider-Man. That's what I'm doing. Hope that encourages you and gives you some further tips in your journey of fasting and praying.